Can you
Do you have a
can you
question?
see my screen now? No, just I would just wanna because some people were saying that they see like a black skin, a black screen. Okay.
It's good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you to Aztlander for inviting me to talk with you all about the initial series. Um, this talk is based on something that I already presented in the Maya meetings when we were during COVID times in 2021. And then we built a little bit up on some ideas. We then performed some excavations, and we decided to write a chapter in the book that we also edited, José Osorio, Francisco Pérez, with Carl Taube as the first author, and Travis Stanton was part of this book, and Jeremy Coleman and myself. And then there is another chapter that uh, José Osorio and Francisco Pérez wrote about initial series and Chichen Itza in general. And that is part of what I am going to talk today. So my screen doesn't want to move. Hold on. Nope. Let me share again my screen. I don't know why it's not showing it.
Then if you want to start that intro again, that'll be good for the recording.
Okay. Okay, there you go. I think, yes, now it's working. Okay, so
Make it full screen. You're not,
I am not.
no.
Hmm, hold on again. Yeah, I know what you can see. There you go.
There you go.
Okay, so now let me try. Yes. So yeah, this talk is based on a talk that I gave to some meetings in 2021 when we were under COVID times, 2021, 2022, probably, no, 2020, yeah, 2022, probably. And we were, but after that, we start to perform some excavations in the initial series, so we add a little bit more of topics and materials to this conversation. Um, this book chapter is also part of, so Vera Tisler was part of this book chapter to talk about the South Plaza of the initial series, but she is not included here because even my focus or the focus of my dissertation, and Vera was one of my advisors, are human remains. I am not going to focus on human remains in this talk. I'm going to mention some of them, but I am not completely focused on it. But what I was saying to you is that this is a book chapter of the book When East Meets West that we participated in this edited volume. And the authors of the volume were Travis Stanton, Carl Taube was the lead author, Jeremy Coleman and me were like the editors of the book. So I'm going to start to talk uh, in general about what Carl Taube is calling the city of the sun. I am not giving like a lot of details about it because Chichen Itza is huge and the research about Chichen Itza is also huge. So I am just mentioning some things about Chichen Itza, and then we are moving to the initial series where our tour is going to start. So I am going to introduce you a little bit about the initial series, and then we are going to focus on the South Plaza. That is what this talk is about specifically. So just for you to remember where we are in time, I want to go a little bit back to the late classic period, and understand that Chichen started to grow during this late classic that was a moment of tumultus and changes in all the Maya area. So some of the Teotihuacan imagery was coming back to in different sites. And then what let us think is that some of the ideas from Teo were also retaken during this time. And people from different areas were migrating and moving beyond, so from different places where they used to live, and they were also other problems. There were like climate change problems, there were new commerce routes, and people were losing faith in different institutions, including for sure the rulers. So some of those changes are reflected in the iconography of Chichen Itza for sure. And by approximately the 900, Chichen Itza was one of the most important urban centers in all of Mesoamerica after all these movements and problems. We also see in this iconography of Chichen Itza an increase of war code and an increase of violence. And that is important because even we can see an increase of violence, an increase of military program in other sites. Is Chichen the place where the corpus of iconography shows even more these ideas coming to people? So different transformations of institutions plus the action taken from the people and the elites gave place to the flourish of Chichen Itza. And we must remember that both central Mexico during all the epic classic and the Maya area, and when I am saying central Mexico, I am not excluding other areas like the Gulf Coast of Mexico and other places that were also having or suffering for these epic classic times, where also other route commerce like were having problems, well, trade routes were having problems or were having like new issues. And we must remember that both of these places, also the Maya areas I was telling, were periods of social, ideological, and transformations, and that it is likely that people from these areas were moving around and they decided to move to the northern lowlands. So probably something were happening in these two areas, like besides all these problems, that they decided, or more than problems, that this I will say more like about these things, like they were like different activities, they were different ways of thinking that were happening during this time, and these people decide to move to the northern. And by the early post-classic, Chichen was a really big city at that point, where we can still see their militaristic interest that it start from the epic classic, from Teo, in fact, but then from the epic classic and from the terminal classic in the Maya area. And this militaristic interest also includes representations of violence and human sacrifice, and all then linked to new power dynamics. We do not see anymore the maize deity as the main focus of the place, but the sun deity, as Coleman and Taue pointed recently, start to be really present in all this ideological conversation and iconography of the site. So this is the nuclear area of Chichen Itza that probably you are very well familiar to it. And we can see the Castillo here on the east side, the Temple of the Warriors, the Thousand Columns here. We can see on the other side where the sunset goes, the ball court over here, the Sun Pantli, Venus platform, and northern. You cannot see it, but there is like a sacbe or a road that conducts to the sacred cenote. So we are going really way south to the site. So here we have the Great Terrace or the nuclear area of the site. Can you see my mouse? I am going to use the laser point, sorry. There you go. So you can see here the sacred cenote, here the nuclear area of the site. with the Castillo here, Temple of the Waters here, Volcor here. Southern from there, there is the Nunnery complex over here. And way south, we can see the initial series group over here. I'm going to show a closer image for you to see. This is the initial series group, and this is what we are going to talk about all this group. Okay, so 800 meters approximately south of the Nunnery, there is the initial series, and I need to start these slides and continue my presentation just saying that this work is based on the work of many people from the Chichen Itza Project for several years, not just the 2019 season, but even before that. So I recognize my co-authors, José Osorio and Francisco Pérez, but also the project director, Peter Schmidt, that is not with us anymore, but his work was like really important for this group. I also acknowledge the people from San Felipe, Xcalacop, Piste, Yaxunat, Tiquimul, and all the people that work in this project, including archaeologists, architects, and all the people that have passed through this project. And some of the maps and data processing are from Ashuni Romero and Jesus Gallegos. And of course, I thank all the other my colleagues that also give me comments or are part of this work. Okay, so now we are moving to the initial series. And as I told you, I'm going to introduce you briefly the initial series. Not as briefly as Chichen Itza, but I'm going to try to be briefly about what initial series is. So when you come from the Nunnery complex, there is a sakbe that is the number 7 that takes you to the sakbe 25, and the 25 is the one that conducts you to this big arc that you can see over here. So that arc is the main entrance of the initial series, and that is not the only road that we can see. There is another road over here that takes you from the Great Terrace and conducts to the initial series as well. So this entrance is smaller, and the Sagbe 26 takes you here. So if you walk northern from here, it takes you to a platform that connects to the Sagbe 12, and that is the one that takes you to the Great Terrace. So as you can see, the group is really well connected to the Great Terrace. There are other entrances in different parts of the complex. And what scholars hypothesize by years is that elite used to live in this complex. And we are going to talk about that a little bit like later. So here you can also see some of the mapped structures over here that surrounded the group. You can see here another the entrances, and there are another entrance over here. If you can see it, there are another entrance by this group over here. And you can see on red, on these red lines, the Sagbeot or the roads that connect to this group. As you can also see, the group is kind of divided into 2 different sections, the north section over here, the south section over here. And I am taking you to a quick tour, really quick tour on the North Plaza. So you know it, this is the North Plaza. But the focus of this talk, of course, is the South Plaza. So please do not get so excited about the North one, because we are not going to spend so much time over there, even it's really gorgeous. So we're going to start with the temple of the initial series. That is the one that gives the name to the group, sorry. And this is the temple of the initial series over here. Okay, here it is. And this temple has 4 occupations at least. The earliest one was around 600, 650, more or less. And that one is inside, is the bottom of this building, is the first occupation. And what from where the group takes the name is from these 2 Atlantans that you can barely see through the leaves, but this is a better image of them. So this is the lintel that probably was recycled for a different building. Peter Schmidt suggests that probably from the phallic complex, and that is the text referred to a place to sleep. And the date was located in the bottom of the lintel over here. And that is the long count that says like the date of the probably, supposedly, if we think about in archaeological terms, the date of the group. However, if we think that this lintel was recycled or reused for a different complex, it is likely that it is not referring specifically to the initial series. However, we know that the last long count of the, I don't know why it says lower, no, lower Northlands, was in this lintel, was described in this lintel, and that is why the group takes that name from there. So in Spanish, we call it el grupo de la fecha or el grupo de la serie inicial based on this lintel as well. So if you hear both of them, that means also that we are talking about the same group. Okay, so now I am going to show you the arc entrance. I'm gonna be really quickly showing you the arc entrance just because it's a nice space. And then just to mention for you to like place yourself in the area, this is an altar one of the initial series, of the North Plaza of the initial series. This is the drum house, the house of the drum, and this is the house of the yoke in the North Plaza. So this is the entrance, the arc entrance. So you can see the Sacbet 25 here, and then it is a really nice entrance where you walk in and you get into the North Plaza over there. So this arc was excavated by Ina in 2002. And then you have the Temple of the Initial Series that we briefly talked about it already, the platform of the turtle that I'm going to show you, and the structure 5C12 or the tomb. So facing east is the turtle, and in other sides you have like sculptures or altars that are similar in the way that they are from turtles, and that they are usually linked to bloodletting rituals. So inside of this structure, there is a substructure where they found some obsidian blades, and in the Matrix Codex is also shown this turtle. And then we have on the west side of the plaza, the tomb or the structure 5C12, that it was called like that because there was a cyst inside. So there is a check mold right here in front of the structure, and this check mold match with a check mold that is on the other side in front of the initial series temple. So that is on the east side where the sun comes out. This is where the sunset happens. And what I want to show you is the cyst over here of this structure, and this cyst contained cremated human remains. Some of the interpretations, especially from Schmit, that was the person who excavated, included that the cyst may have buried an important individual or special individuals, and that those special individuals were part of, like, probably from dynasty that is linked to the initial series. Probably one of the main people or a special individual that is from the initial series. There were not offerings. There were fake turquoise that you can see here in the drawing, close to the hand, close to the neck, that were part of the attires of the individuals. And as part of my dissertation, I analyzed these human remains from the cyst, and I found a little bit different interpretations than Schmidt. So the analysis showed the remains of multiple individuals were exposed to fire, and that these individuals also had some cut marks that are not consistent with referenced buried people, but with sacrificial individuals. So we found around like 3 complete individuals, partially complete individuals, but the rest of them were body parts, like human remains of body parts. So the minimum number of individuals based on left humerus and right tibias are 7, but the most likely number of individuals show at least 12 individuals. And the appendicular stone, the appendicular skeleton, sorry, show an expected number, but not enough. So if we do the math with 260 bones per individual, like 530 individuals is not equal 7 in any way. For sure, is not enough for 12 individuals. So we thought that probably this is an special deposit, but for probably a ceremony or something related with warriors and rituals of fire, that in Chichen Itza is really common to talk about rituals of fire in several places. Okay, so going back to the North Plaza, so okay, so just a quick note, this is the initial serious temple, as I told you. There is a chacmol over here. So in a straight line, you can see the platform of the turtle, and on the other side is the tomb that I just described, and the other chacmol that is in the east-west axis from there. Okay, so just a quick mention, Francisco Pérez and Abimael Ku and their team excavated in 2019 and finished in 2023 the House of the Moon, or La Casa de la Luna. So they found the evidence of flat roof here in Chichen Itza, and that is important because for years people considered that this flat roof is a diagnostic feature from West Coast, but from East Coast, sorry, but it is earlier than we thought. So in other places in Chichen Itza, they found like similar things that probably they had a flat roof also in other structures, like Lily Fernandez excavated also a structure in the Great Terrace that showed like consistent evidence with this, but she didn't found like strongest evidence as Francisco and Abimael found, like the remains of the places where the trunks were like in the flat roofs. Sorry. Okay. So now we are moving to the South Plaza. And here's where we are spending a little bit more of time. So the South Plaza is the last part of, like here on red, you can see it. So we have here the North Plaza, and going south, we have the South Plaza over here. And we are not going to talk about all the buildings that are around this area, but we are going to talk about the main ones that are consistent with the South Plaza. So here we are starting with the Folly complex. All this is the Folly complex, and the Carnegie start to work there in the terrace. And they work on some rooms, replace some lintels. They work also in some of the vaults. And in the 90s, the Chichen Itza project, led by Peter Schmidt, continued excavating the program until 2005, more or less. But they stopped, and until 2019, José Osorio and Francisco Pérez, part of INA as well, and now being the Chichen Itza project, resumed the activities over there. So there were almost 16 years where there were not excavations in the initial series until this time in 2019. And then in 2023, as part of the PROMEZA, that was part of the Maya train, they continued working in there like a lot. So this is the Folly complex, just for you to see it. And we have the House of the Folly over this side. We have the Temple of the Dancing Jowers in the second floor of the complex. We have on this side the House of the Shells, and recently excavated the House of the Shields in the bottom part or south part of the complex. So we are not going to talk a lot about all these places. I am just giving an idea of how they look like for you to know them. So we are starting with the House of the Valley that it receives their name, as you can clearly see from carved sculptures of phallus embedded in some of in the walls of some of the rooms. And the facade of the buildings includes several decorated panels like these ones. And some researchers assume that these panels are like codex style, that they are like telling you a story. So you can easily, for sure, see carved figures over the performing different activities. And here, of course, I am joking. And I just want to tell you, like, sometimes being a UCR student in class with Carl Taube is like, oh, you can easily see here. And we all were like, where? Like, we cannot see anything. But for fortunately, we have hard drawings to actually see what we want to show what you want to see. So here I am showing you a couple of examples. This is the first one of some of the panels that they show images of the deity N or the Powhatunas, and they are performing some sort of auto-sacrifice here. The old-looking guys also wear some morphic motifs, like these shell pectorals that are diagnostic of them. And there are some blades around them. They have also this headdress over here, and there are some vessels over here and over here. This is the second example of another panel. And here, these individuals are also having these animal attributes. In this case, you can see what is interpreted as a spider web or a bat wing. And you can also see the vessels here, but instead of they were on the side, you can see a jaguar and a feather serpent kind of coming out from these vessels. So also in the phallic complex, but on the second floor, there is the Temple of the Dancing Jaguars up there. And the rich iconography of the walls here show mainly two interesting scenes. First, in the upper area, when you go up straight up from the stairs on the main entrance of this structure, there is a personage that is identified as Kawil or a deity K that proposes as a really rich deity. So the deity so yeah, so if you are interested in having a deity or a friend like this is the good one, because this is the one that have like resources such as maize, jade, or cacao. And as you can see here, the kawil is holding the vessel um, with some probably maize here, some flowers around, cacao beans, and ear spurs over here. So this kawil is also in the top of this sky band over here. So you can see the Venus symbol over here, flowers all around, and a jaguar in a 3D format. So this jaguar is like coming out, as you can see better in this photo. So the head of the jaguar is coming out from the wall. And so on the side and on the back of the building, there are these dancing jaguars that give the name to the temple. So you can see that they are like full attire with a pectoral, bracelets. This animal is considered like a solar animal and seems to be dancing in a fashion that some of the warriors are proposed by Annabeth Hedrick to be like dancing and moving around. So in 2019 and 2023, the project of Chichen Itza performed some works in the House of the Shells, that is this one. So the House of the Shells, we used to think that there was a direct aisle that connected the South Plaza, that is this one, to an interior patio of the group. And that was not true. A vault room, so if you walk straight from here, you will see that that is a vault room and it's closed. So you do not have access to the interior patio of the uh, of the of the group over there. So this structure is also rich in iconographic corpus. Their facades, all of them are carved over here. So you can see, probably not the motifs, but you can see that all of this is carved, and you can see the shells over here that are the ones that give the name of the group over here, of the building, sorry. So the main character of this facade is holding leaves and floral vines that come from his penis. And there are three mainly interpretations of this imagery of the facade. The first one, that is the earliest one, that comes from Peter Schmidt, where he says that the personage is coming out or is part from a jicama or a cup, that in Maya is the name, that in English, I think people mention it as a turnip, Mexican turnip or something like that, but this is a root that is not that sweet and is white in the center. And Smith suggests that the name cup was interesting here because it referred probably to the Kupul lineage, which supposedly is linked to Chichen Itza. The second interpretation here is from Najera Coronado, and she said that this personage is coming out from some sort of seed. And the third one, and the more recent interpretation that we have, is that is from Tab and colleagues, and they said that this person is interpreted as a bird, most likely a wind deity, that is coming out from an egg. And from his penis is giving life to vegetation that continues all around the building, as you saw on that facade. And this is not the only personage. There is another one where we can see like the dog face, like the Mexica god, Hecatl for them, so the wind god. So Carl is with this idea that this building is showing motifs that are linked to the sun, that are linked to the sunrise, and from the wind coming from the east, that is the one that is bringing also rain. Okay, so in 2023, we also start to excavate the House of the Shields, and archaeologist Arturo Cortez found, so this is the House of the Shields, and Arturo Cortez and his team found the facade and some of rooms that were part of this structure. So here on the left side, you can see the Temple of the Owls over here, and around the corner of where we were seeing the facade over there, there is the facade that shows like these shields over here that you can barely see here. This room that you see here where they are excavating is a posterior room. They attached this to the structure later on. But what is interesting are the shields over here. So you can still see some of the colors, the remain colors here, the red, the blue over here. This piece is now in the museum. So you can go to the Chichen Itza Museum and you will see not just the original lintel of the initial series, but you can also see like several of the sculptors that came from this group, including one of the shields from this new shield house. So moving a little bit further, we can see the Temple of the Owls. And Simon Martin talked like a lot about this building. Also, Najera Coronado had talked about this building a lot. So here, the moving south, we can see some turtles over here in this line that they are identified also as some of the Powhatuns or these god and but animals that are like uh, linked to these god and images that I was showing you in the first panels of the complex of the Folly. And what we also see here is this stone that is interpreted as an owl. Carl says that this is a skull with the papers like next to the head. But what we can also see, and Simon Martin was like talk more about it, is about this cacao tree over here. So all the representations of the Temple of the Owls are linked to this cacao imagery, like coming from the underworld and being part of the underworld. And we can also see that in 2005, some excavations from Peter Schmidt show this box that had in the side an adult, and there were also some bones, fragmented bones over here, some shells, bits over here that are really similar to the ones that we found in the tomb that I showed you previously, and there were also some greenstone jades or some greenstone beads over there. Another important or relevant imagery from the Temple of the Owls is this bolt. So this lead bolt also has the kawil that we already saw on the Temple of the House of the Shells, and this is coming out from a cave or the underworld, and you can see the cacao beans holding here. He's holding a plate, and he's surrounded by this sky band over here, and the sun is full of these arrowheads here. So all this related to what we can see of this imagery of the sun and also the underworld and all the sky band and the richness of this solar paradise that Carl mentions as Chichen Itza was. What I what we did in 2009 is that we started to excavate a pit between the old house and the altar over here. So we excavated all the altar that I'm going to talk about it later on, but we excavated a big pit here between the old house and the altar. So in front of Buos, what we found was part of the previous balustrade of the previous plaza. So we also found the wall that limited the earlier plaza. And I'm coming back to this image, but for you to understand better, all the initial series was built on a terrace that was also modified. And they use the same technique that that they are reporting, that my colleagues like Braswell and also Osorio, León, and Pérez are reporting in the Great Terrace, that there are like retention walls that are filled with rubble. And an early platform known as Japnal Motul platform marks the limit of the North Plaza, that is this one, and also here in front of La Luna. And this platform was the earliest one, but then it seems that they increased the size of the plaza when they built the House of the Shells. However, this is not the only one. They extended the plaza to the south, behind the House of the Owls, and they also extended the plaza. So we found the alignment over here, and they extended to the west to the House of the Monkeys. So we found human remains of at least 4 individuals in this pit over here. Not exactly where the balustrade was, but a little bit southern than that. And that is most likely a cache of these 4 individuals that were part of the ritual of the increasing of the enlargement of this plaza. And the other, so going back to here, and these are the stairs and the balustrades of the first plaza that we found. This is below the altar level. The floor of these balustrades and these stairs. So you go up over here, and then you are in the old plaza there. Okay. And this is another image of the wall, the retaining wall, that is this one. Here we already excavated. So if you face east, you can see here the House of the Shells and There is this retaining wall over here. This is another like kind of like a retaining wall as well, full of um, rubble. And then here we found kind of like a metate, but a really big one. You can still see it. Like initial series now is open to the public, so you can see it in there. And here in this area is where we found these four individuals that I was telling you about. So these individuals were like not full attire neither, but they were wearing this shell pectoral, one of them, and almost all of them were wearing this fake turquoise that is the same one that I was telling you when we were talking about the tomb in the North Plaza. So this is kind of ceramic and it's covered with plaster, and it has like some paint on it that it make look like turquoise, but it is not turquoise. And we also found some shell beads, some bones that are beads as well, and greenstone beads as well in that area. So between owls and monkeys, there was a chultun, that is a cistern that when they abandoned the site, made it useless. That is this one. And Jim is really excited about this chultun, as you all saw it. So this chultun is 530 meters deep, and there are stones from other. So when they close the area, when they left, when they abandoned the initial series, they put inside some stones from other buildings. They put inside some hands of metates. They put some metates inside, some beads, turquoise, um, a whistle, shells, bones, needles, spindle walls, obsidian blades, um, figurines, and sculptures. And approximately 10 meters before the 10 centimeters before the bottom, there were like 6 human skulls and other human remains. I didn't analyze those human remains neither, but what we know is that they were not complete individuals, but the skulls and some long bones and probably some like hand or feet bones also there. So in the really bottom part of the chultun, like almost here, they found a frog sculpture that was facing east, and then it, there was a cover of red floor, the stucco red floor, and underneath this floor there was like a floor of shirts, and underneath there were another red stucco floor. And when they took out, when Rocio González de la Mata, that is the person who excavated almost all the chultuns in Chichen Itza, or all the chultuns in Chichen Itza, including this one, when she removed this red stucco floor, she found the sculpture of a fish and a turtle. And under the turtle, there were a pyrite disc of 8 centimeters of diameter. So they prepared this chultun really well. Probably they were, if we think that from the Terminal Classic, they were saying that there were a lot of droughts and there were a lot of suffering about the lack of raining or water management. Chichen Itza was a place that were like trying, really trying to manage the water in not just the physical way, as you can see through the cenote, through the chultun, and of course the cenotes and the rejolladas around the area, but also with this ideological thinking of putting all these sculptures and prepare the place with these smoothy plaster walls as well. So, however, when they abandon the site, as I told you, they make sure that nobody could use this place anymore. Especially with human remains in there, there is no way that people can still use this uh, this children, sorry. And this is one of the sculptures that was inside. It's a monkey that was painted on blue, and you can see also that it is wearing a pectoral. And that led us to the House of the Monkeys over there. So the House of the Monkeys was Peter Schmidt worked there in 1999 and then in 2000 to 2005, more or less. And then in 2019, uh, we start to clean it a little bit. And in 2023, my colleague and friend Elodia like give like a full maintenance to this place. She worked on the vault of this structure. They clean it up. They put all these columns on the top of each other that some of them were like falling down. And this is a really long structure. It's almost 36 meters east west. And this is similar to other structures in Chichen Itza. So in fact, Peter Schmidt considered that these were the places where the pilgrims were staying when they come to the site, similar to the Thousand Columns that also was built. And we can see a rich iconography facade as well, where we can appreciate some personage with its name on the top. And here we can see some plants that are close, different to the ones from the House of the Shells, where they were like in full blossom. So probably related the south again with the underworld, link the the west with the underworld, with the place of the dead, where the flowers were also like a symbolism of that. The decoration of this building includes monkeys. That is why it's called the House of the Monkeys. And these panels are really famous because you can see these birds bullying the monkeys that are also wearing these shell necklaces, similar to what we found in the burial, in the human remains deposits, and they are pooing, and what they are pooping is probably the cacao seeds, as previous interpretations have been done about this. So just to mention, the house of the cabecitas or the little heads was excavated by the Carnegie. We don't really know much about this structure. We know that there was a sculpture of a face, and that is what is called the little heads, and that the facade of this structure were birds also, and probably bats, but we don't really know much about the little heads. And in the central area, we excavated the altar, the central altar, as I told you. We consolidate and made the restoration of the full altar. Uh, and we excavated in the middle, we found a vessel with four stones, kind of in the four directional cardinal directions, similar to the whole group. So the whole group is marked by north, south, east, and west, as you can see with the structure that I was showing you, and all this tour that we were giving in that directions. And this is the central point of the group. So we thought that probably this vessel contained a child burial or a child deposit, similar to what Pérez de Heredia found in like several areas in the group and in all of Chichen Itza, but it wasn't. It was empty. So probably there were more like an organic remain or something like that. So we kept the soil, and we want to do some more like research about it and see if we can find something. On this height, on the south, but really way below the altar, on bedrock, we found the human remains of a child. So probably that was also the first extension of the plaza of this part of the group, and that kid was the cache of that extension of the plaza. So I already talked about this in previous forums, and what we think, part of what we think about these cardinal directions, are that they are representing not just by the structures, but also by the animals that they are symbolized in each of them, and that they are linked to cardinal direction, color, animal, and give us an idea about this god end or Pawatunes being like a big deal in the in the way that they were planning and developed Chichen Itza. So in the middle, we have this Paushikali, that is a stone where the Mexica put like the heart of the sacrificed people, and that was the main point, the main place in the Central Plaza. And we think that probably a bat is linked to this, that is representing probably a ceiba tree that is connecting the sky with the terrestrial area, with the underworld as well in these different places. But what I really want you to take out today are the idea that Chichen Itza's strategy included, as mentioned at the beginning, new power dynamics. And these power dynamics included an increase in performance and display of sacrifice. And we can see several images of auto-sacrifice, but especially about human sacrifice. So the public were part of this power reinforcement and the dissemination of the war cult. And the objectification of the body was a big thing in Chichen Itza in all this resiliation and how Chichen Itza started to grow up after the Terminal Classic. So thank you for your attention. Thank you for all the people that are involved, and thank you for the Aztlander to having me here. And just Jim, before you go to the questions, I just want to make an announcement about Bandarian. So we are a nonprofit dedicated to archaeology. We host researchers to stay in our library. That Bandarian was founded by George Stewart, and we have part of his library, but we also built the library from donations from other scholars and researchers, and we have a space for some people to stay there and write there if they want to finish a piece of paper, if they want to finish a piece of writing, a book, or any other thing. And we also do like outreach activities in Mexico and also in the US. And how we maintain this program is through Bandarian Adventures, that we are traveling, taking people to travel and have ethnographic and archaeological experience to different places. And we are highly supported also by Maya Field workshops, that a portion of the fee is also part of our programs. And both of them are tax deductible. And in the Maya Field workshops, we travel with David Stewart to different places, and is completely archaeology geek oriented is how we call it sometimes, because we are like having lectures, visiting different sites, and we were really honored to have some of the public here to come with us with these trips, and it's how we maintain part of our program. So thank you, Jim.
All righty. Thank you, Nelda. Before you close out of your program, can you go back to the slide that showed the personage with the glyphs and the arrow points in the sun? It was sort of halfway through. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, yeah.
This one, right?
Yeah. Do you know much about those glyphs? Or it looks very non-standard, and why we would have a 2 something, a 1 a how, a 10 something. Is that an Simon, if you want to unmute, is that something you can make a comment on?
It's a very difficult text.
A very what?
It's a very difficult text.
Oh, really?
And also, the drawing is taken from a photograph of just the area of the text, and that itself is very faint. So the reconstruction is probably, a little bit of filling in some blanks. I think some other people might have better ideas who work on Yucatec dates more than I do, but I don't really have seen a convincing interpretation of that date.
Yeah. And those are probably cacao pods and the whole thing is taking place. Those are kind of centipede, uh, the centipede type thing.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And it is it is really sad that we don't have the original of this lead anymore. It's gone, but at least there are some drawings and interpretations about it. And yes, like it is connecting the underworld to the sky for sure.
Hmm.
That is what we can clearly see. Plus, in a place where we talk about cacao beans all around the place. So this talk is not about cacao, but we talked about cacao previously in meso meetings, and there are some rejolladas, like big rejolladas around the initial series or sinkholes that they are around the initial series, and that most likely the initial series were like owning them or protecting them somehow. And cacao seems to be really important for the post-classic, but it seems that for Chichen Itza, it was really a big thing.
Yeah. In the past few minutes, there's been 4 or 5 people come in who apparently missed the hour change. For you folks who have just come in, if you want to give me your email address, I'll send you a notice when I have Nelda's program recording up on our Aztlander YouTube channel. I'll send you the notice because you really missed a great program. I don't quite see any questions, but Eduardo says, great presentation, Nelda. Did you find inscriptions at the initial series group, and were they consistent in style with inscriptions found elsewhere at Chichen? You can go ahead and close your screen sharing.
Okay, there we go. So I can see you. Okay, so there are not that many inscriptions. There are some, like here, as you can see, and in the initial series temple, basically. And they are closer to what we found in Yucatan, like the Yucateco style. They are kind of similar to what we found in other places in Chichen, but we don't have much, honestly. And as Simon said, they are like hard to read. So we don't have much in this place, but the iconography seems to be like really like they wanted to make it obvious for people. So writing was not a big deal in Chichen for sure, especially after the 900, but they wanted the people to be clear about what was happening there through the iconography.
All right. And Stephanie, she asks, is the grammar of the text in Yucatec Maya or still in classic Maya grammar?
Yeah, Yucatec Maya, it seems that what we found in Chichen Itza is in Yucatec.
All right. And then Rick, you have your video on. You want to ask some questions?
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Now that this is known in most of the literature as the old Mayan village, and are you saying it's now open to tourists?
It is now open to the public, yes, but not daily. So if you are planning to come, you need to come on Thursday, Friday, or Saturdays, and you need to send an email. And I think there are who like that you can schedule 2 different times to come, and that's it. So at 9 a.m. and I think noon, and that's it.
Who do you send the email to?
I will.
Oh, okay, okay. Because we were there together, and I wanted
Yeah.
to go back, and I was threatened with all kinds of fines and jail time if I did, because nobody was there. I
Yeah, I can.
remember.
I can share the email with you, Jim, and you can put it in the YouTube as well if someone else is interested to visit the initial series.
That'll work.
I,
That'll work.
Okay.
I had another question for you, Nelda.
Yes.
And that was, I remember David talking when we were in Chichen Itza, and I thought he said there was something else to the east of the old Mayan village. And I've never checked with him about that, but I don't know anyone knows anything about that.
Something else like that, like
Like
what?
another, like structures or something.
Well, what we see in Chichen is really just the nuclear part and the initial series, but it is full of structures, and there are really big groups around Chichen Itza. So I'm sure that if he
Okay.
was talking about other buildings, for sure there were like several other structures around the nuclear area of Chichen Itza. And there were also like some sakbeop or roads that are linking to a different towns that are smaller towns than Chichen Itza for sure, but that they were like around the area as well. So
Okay.
probably something like that.
Okay. I'll just tell you one other little thing that I found very funny. When we were there together, Susan Dutcher was with us, and she's now passed away. And
I know.
and Susan talks all the time, and you can never tell, was she talking to you or to herself, or she's just talking, right? And I'm standing beside her, and we're looking at the second story, the Temple of Dancing Jaguars, and she just starts saying, the last time I was here, I was helping Meryl Green Roberts carrying papers up there for her to. And I looked at it, I said, wait, you helped Meryl put out, do her rubbing something? She said, oh, yeah, I did that. So then at some point, I talked to Meryl's son, and I said, how did Meryl put up with Susan talking all the time? And he said, oh, Mom was deaf as could be in her last year, so it worked out perfectly.
Oh.
All right, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any more questions? Anybody else wanna?
I've got a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Bob Martin here. Back around the end of Merle's life, I was with her in Chichen Itza back, I think back in the complex you were talking about. She was doing a lot of temple rubbings when we were there, when I was there. And I'm wondering why, what happened to those? Do you have those as access to see what some of these carved stones look like then, as opposed to just the drawings that are able to be done now?
Let me see if I have something that I can show you. Just give me a second. But in the meantime, answering your question, I think some of them are in her corpus. Like we had access to some of them, especially Peter Schmidt, but I think that we do not have access anymore to them. Okay, I found that. Hold on. Let me share my screen with you.
Oh,
This is one of the treasures. So this is Rocio, and this is José Osorio, the last time that Mer were around in the initial series.
huh.
Hmm. That's a nice photo. Keep it up, keep it up. I'm gonna take a photo.
Yeah, I will.
Is that the hat that she was wearing?
Maybe. I don't know if it has the blue band over there, but probably yes.
She has her hat tilted back. Okay.
Yeah, I feel very honored that I went to one of the Tulane symposiums, and on the Friday night, the opening, I happened to be standing at top of the stairs of where they were having the goings on the Friday night on the inside there of Mari, and I saw Merle coming in the doors down at the bottom of the stairs by herself. And so I ran down there and I helped her all the way up. And we went into the room together. She said, come in, come in. And I went in, and there was Anthony Vini, all these people. And I go, no, I go, this is your place. This is your time. I don't, this is not my place. So you take it. And so she, did her thing. But I feel very honored that I got to help her in on a night that she was honored. I don't see any more questions. Roger, since I visited, it is very interesting. On top of the more awful allergic reaction, worse, actually been sick. Da, 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 da. There are quite a few rubbings in the conference room of the Hacienda Chichen where David and George conducted their lectures. Thank you, John. And John has posted a link in the chat if you want to see some of Merle's rubbings that are there. Let me copy that. I'll give everybody a few seconds to copy and paste that link if you want to look at it later. Has anybody got any more questions?
I'd like to just make another comment on Boundary Inn. It's a fabulous place, and the tours they're giving now, not the ones with David, but other ones, might appeal to other people. I'm hoping my wife might come along on one of those. She listened to one of David's lectures, and I asked her what she thought, and her voice kind of dropped, and she said, "The Cult of David." And I said, yeah, that's about right. But the Boundary End ones include other things. And by the way, the university at North Carolina at Chapel Hill has a lot of George Stewart's library there as well. 7 or 12 bookcases worth too. And some of that is some of the rare stuff is there. And they also have Audubon's large books with birds, and it's not under glass. You can actually take it out and look at it. So it's pretty crazy. Anyway, little
Thank you,
plug
Rick.
for both.
Thank you, Rick.
You're welcome, Nelda.
Yeah, I have fond memories of George and meeting George and hanging out with him at especially one of the Maya at the Playas. And I had brought a beautiful double-ended, beautiful church, perhaps spearhead or ceremonial spearhead, because it had points at both ends. And I had found it in Belize when we lived in Belize. And actually, I was in Belize to help build a yoga center. So I wasn't really into the Maya way back in the 70s. But it had called me, and I dug down in some fat guano, and there I pulled out this beautiful thing. But I showed it to George, and he said it's one of the best examples that he's ever seen, and that and then he invited me to the library and said, the doors are open if you want to come up here and hang out. But I never made it before he passed, so I really feel sorry about that. But yeah,
You can still go.
yeah, the last okay, the last with Nelda's article in the Aztlander, I had a full page there, and it's got links to their upcoming events. You want to mention some of those events? It's not
Yeah,
just
sure. So on October 25 to November 2nd, we are going to Guatemala. And this trip is a boundary and adventure trip. So we are going to the highlands, and our trip includes Dia de los Muertos in Guatemala. We went to Oaxaca last year, and honestly, it was fantastic. So this year we are going to Guatemala. And from Maya field workshops on December, we are going to the Mexico highlands. So we are going to Cacaxtla, we are going to Malinalco, to Xochicalco, Teotihuacan for sure. So we are going kind of around Mexico City and finishing in Mexico City just to take the airplane, pretty much. So that is going to be a trip with David Stewart, like leading us. And what we are working on right now is an exhibit about Coba. So we are going back and forth to Coba. We are exploring our collection, and we are trying to uh, set up this exhibit in the US, Mexico, and end it next year in Coba town with a big party for the people in town. So keep posted about that one. Probably from September to December, we will be in the museum in Cancun and probably in Washington. But we will see if we can go to other places in the US as well and in Mexico.
And I know the hurricane, that was just last year, right?
Yeah.
And I was in touch with you, and it took you a few weeks before you could ever access Boundary End, right? Can you mention how serious were any damages?
Yeah, so as you know, the hurricane hits Asheville area, and we are kind of close to the Asheville area. We are in Barnersville in North Carolina. That is the location of the library. So we, like Anne Stewart and me, that are the ones that focus on logistics and everything about the Boundary End, we weren't physically in the Boundary End back in that time. So we didn't know what happened with the library for some days until one of the scholars that were resident there, he could finally get in touch with us, and he was like, I am okay. And we were like, okay, that's everything what we need to know for now. And then we wait like 2 weeks before someone can actually tell us that the library was okay. There was some water came in into the bottom floor, but not really. Like we were really lucky in comparison to other people. Like we were really lucky. The roads were almost destroyed, but the library was safe. So we are really glad that nothing happened to the actual library and that the collection were safe. But just like it was really hard for everybody in the area.
Well, that's good that it wasn't worse, because that area got hit really, really, really hard. Still recovering.
Yes. Yeah, everything is recovering still there.
Anybody, hey, Mary Lou,
Hi.
you don't have any questions?
I just want to say my house in Asheville survived, but we were without water for, I guess, about a month after the hurricane, and the highways and the entire water system of Asheville was pretty much
Was
demolished.
destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sorry. And
no,
well, now that you're talking about being from the Asheville area, we are planning on May to do a program in the Asheville area. So we need to confirm some dates, but it's likely that we will be on May with 2 different programs in there. So I will let you know as well, James, for you can share with the people, and if people are like around Asheville, like they can come to join us.
well, Jim, please let me know because I'll be in Asheville, I think, part of May.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, definitely. Nelda, send it to me. If you can send it to me by the 3rd week in April, I'll put it in the May Aztlander so everybody will know about it.
Great.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. All right. Good to see you, Mary Lou.
Good to see you too, all of you.
I don't see any more questions in the chat. Does anybody at all have any more questions? Nelda, can you talk more about, I mean, years ago I was there, I was invited guest of the Barbachanos at the Maya land, and one of the days we did a horseback trip back into Old Chichen and the initial series group. And there was a chaltun that they had been excavating. And the lady archaeologist, I think it was Maria Rosado, uh, she asked me if I yeah, if I wanted to go down in this beautiful chaltun, and so she directed the Maya workers. They had a little tri-stand thing with the pulley rope and the seat, and then they rolled you down. And so I went down, and my recollection, it was just beautiful, smooth plaster walls. Can you talk more about that chaltun?
Well, this chultun is the one that I showed you. There are two chultuns in the initial series. One was explored by Thompson, that is in a habitational unit close to the arc entrance, and that was full of trash. And I think one of the big problems of chultuns is that like people back then didn't know that they had like archaeological material. Like they thought that they were full of trash and that's it. So we don't really know what happened or what were like inside that chultun. The other chultun and most of the chultuns in the sites are excavated by Rocío González de la Mata, and she did an excellent work, like registering the chultuns, talking about them. There's an article of her where she talks about these chultuns, and specifically this in initial series is a unique chultun. Like where I'm gonna share my screen for a second. Sorry. So in this chultun, you can see that it is really deep, like as I told you, 5 meters. But also it is really interesting how it has like a system for rainwater like came into the chultun, but also it is not on floor level. And that is kind of weird in the Maya area. They usually like take advantage of the floor level to get water in, but in this case, the chultun is like on the top, like it is not on floor level. And yeah, like this is a really interesting children. Like the walls were like with plaster still, but I don't think they work even they had plaster on it even now.
I remember it
Yes.
being like a giant wine bottle.
Yeah, like this shape that you can see here. It's
Yeah.
like a bottle. Yeah.
Hmm. And you say it's unique, eh?
Yeah, I think there is so there is one children that is kind of similar, I will say, in kebab, but it's not really the same thing because that is also floor level and the stones that are surrounding it is not the same shape that these ones.
When you say floor, I mean, I thought chaltuns were used for water storage.
Yeah, from water starts, but from the floor. So they were like retaining or keeping the water from the floor and it comes down into the chultun. But this one is not on floor level. Like they were not taking advantage of the floor.
Yeah, because the one you showed, that's like a foot of stones up from plaza level. How would water get in there?
Yeah, I think was like poor rainy water, or probably they had some kind of some sort of system that from the structures it fell down over there.
So they might have even considered the rainwater coming off of the roofs and different surfaces. They might have even been taking it with a little bit of human intervention, perhaps like to give it an extra and pouring it down there.
I think the water of this chiltern was kind of special. I don't want to be really like everything is ritual in archaeology, but this chiltern is special. And all the sculptures inside it and everything what they were like planning to build around this chiltern, like inside in the bottom, the different floor levels, the sculptures, like it looks like this was like a special chiltern. So probably they were like capturing some sort of water that was special for them for something around the group. But also, it is really interesting to me that when they left the group, they made and as what I was saying, like they made sure that nobody could use this again,
Oh,
like putting all that trash inside. But it's also special trash. It's not like they were putting just whatever. They were putting like sculptures, they were putting human remains. It's not just pure trash and that's it. Like they were closing this space for nobody can use it again.
hmm. Interesting, interesting. All right. Well, if nobody else has any questions, thank you so much, Nelda. That was really, really good.
You're welcome.
And there's at least oh, 5 or 6 people that given me their email addresses, especially to receive notices of the recording. Thank you for navigating the hour change. I mean, it's only been 2 days and you were right on time, right on time.
Because I live in Cancun, but I work in North Carolina, you know?
Oh, really? Huh.
It's part of that.
I have another friend that's involved with the Institute of My Studies, and he lives outside of Cancun. And David Bowles lives outside of Cancun. So it's if I was to take a trip down there, I would probably fly into the Cancun airport and then make my way down. I want to visit the site of Ixcoal.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You've been
We
there?
went. We went on December.
Oh, really? Was Sandra there? Did she show you around? No.
No, she weren't there, but we were with another archaeologist,
Uh-huh.
Joaquin.
Joaquin. Okay.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
but it's really nice.
And thank you, John. And Ashuni. Ashuni's been with us. I don't know if she wants to say anything about the drawings that she did. Uh, Ashuni's
I,
saying hi to John, but you want to say
Ashun
everybody
Ashuni actually is sick. He is
what?
my husband, and he's actually sick, so he cannot really talk right now. Like he's coughing a lot.
Oh,
So
so I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought
no, but it's the same one. Like it's the one that made some of the maps and the drawings.
but he's a male, and did you say he's your husband?
Yes.
Oh,
So
wow.
Ashuni is a word in Purepecha language that means deer,
Gear?
deer in
Deer.
Purepecha. Yeah. That is the language that the people from Michoacan talk.
Oh, wow. Well, that's very interesting. Well, I'm sorry. I mean, my
Don't
God,
worry, nothing happens.
I assumed that name was a
He
piece.
doesn't mind.
Can you believe somebody's just now coming in? Adriano Pretzkowitz, yeah, he might be in Eastern Europe. I don't know where he's at. My gosh. All right. So you say he's not feeling ill? He's not feeling well?
Yeah, he's sick right now.
Oh, I just got over a cold, I guess you could call if you call sniffles and a cough a cold. I had a cold and the cough has moved very deep. So I mean, at other Zooms, when I'm trying to project my voice and read and I'm coughing, but I don't think I've coughed tonight, so that's amazing that I haven't coughed. But gosh, I hope he feels better. Another
Thank you.
friend here, Roger, said well, there was a bad storm. They were almost drowned like rats. But he had some kind of allergic reaction and he was out of sorts, worse than being sick for more than 2 weeks. Yep. So I'm glad, Roger, that you're feeling better. Okay, well, with that, thank you, Nelda. And I'll be in touch
Thank you.
about the recording and in touch with everybody about the recording. And wait, there's one last thing. Vicky and I took the train Maya from Palenque to Merida. It was great. Okay, thank you, John, for that. It's probably a little bit expensive too, but glad you were treated well. All right, so thank you.
I think it's not that expensive, honestly.
Really?
Really. You need to explore it,
It still
like
doesn't
prices and
go-
everything.
It still doesn't go from south of where is it? I mean through the area of Cenotes. It's still
I
not.
think it is open until Bacalar
You
right now.
think you can go to Bacalar?
I think so.
I know you can go from Bacalar Chetumal to all the way around the bottom, Calakmul,
Yeah.
but I didn't know it was completed between.
I think probably the last stop is until Tulum right now.
Right. Or there's another besides Tulum, the Akumal and
Mhm.
there's another stop. But I don't
Yep.
think it's open from that stop to Bacalar yet.
Yeah, I think until Tulum right now.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, thank you. And I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take care, Nelda. Great job.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Eduardo.